Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video. I've seen a lot of people online talking about what movies they think are going to do really well in the box office this year. So far this year, we have not had a single movie hit $1 billion. And last year, as of this time, the Mario movie just hit that $1 billion threshold. And it was a pretty big deal for animated movies in general. And it was a really big deal for that film studio because I'm pretty sure that was their first $1 billion hit. And I wanted to come on here and kind of talk about what movies this year I think have a potential chance of hitting $1 billion. And I'm going to be doing it by going through a list of a bunch of popular movies that are supposed to be coming out soon and just giving them all percentage chances that I think they have at hitting $1 billion. Another thing that I wanted to say before I get too far into this, part of the reason I'm making this video is because Dune Part 2 was a movie that I thought for sure was going to hit $1 billion in the box office. It didn't quite get there. It slowed down around 600 million, but that's still really good. And I wanted to talk about it because Kung Fu Panda 4 right now just hit about 580 million in the box office worldwide or something like that. And I just wanted to talk about how insane that is because that movie is not really good. It's not very critically acclaimed, which isn't that important because it's a kids movie, but also a lot of the people who are going and seeing it aren't that fond of it. But that movie is making a bunch of money right now because it has been the only kids movie in theaters for like the last 2 months. So I'm going to be taking account stuff like that in this video. So we're going to go ahead and start off with our first category. Okay, so like I had previously mentioned, last year around this time, the animated movie Super Mario Bros. Had just hit around $1 billion, and that was a pretty big deal. A lot of people were like really amazed that that movie hit it, and obviously they're characters who are like world famous and have been world famous for about 20 years. So it's not that shocking that that movie was able to hit $1 billion, but I also think something that is very crucial towards that movie hitting $1 billion is it is a kids movie. It is one that is accessible from people of all ages will go and be able to see that movie and have a good time with it. So today we're going to be starting off talking about the genre that is typically aimed towards children. We're going to be talking about animated movies because I think if a movie is going to hit $1 billion this year, which that's the thing, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if there's not a single movie this year that hits $1 billion. But that being said, if one is going to, the one that I think has the highest odds is Despicable Me 4. As much as it kills me to say this, these movies do incredibly well in the box office. Minions Rise of Gru was one of the highest grossing movies that came out a couple of years ago, and they have hit $1 billion in the past with this franchise and these characters. So I definitely see it being in play. So for them, I gave them a solid 81% chance of them hitting $1 billion. I think it's totally possible. I think it's totally doable. I think that of the movies coming out this year, it is by far the one that has the best chance of hitting $1 billion. The next one, we got Inside Out 2. I think Inside Out 2 is an incredible movie. Well, I haven't seen it. I think it's going to be an incredible movie. I think that the first Inside Out movie is really, really well perceived. And some of you guys might not know this. The first one was actually relatively close to hitting $1 billion. I think it stopped around like 850 million or something like that. Had a really good box office run. And Pixar has, in the last couple of years, hit that $1 billion mark with Incredibles 2, Finding Dory. A lot of their sequels have been hitting $1 billion when the original one has been close to hitting $1 billion. So I definitely think that it's possible for this one to hit $1 billion. The only reason I'm kind of putting it a little bit lower is this one is going to be out around the same time as Despicable Me. I believe that it opens before Despicable Me, but the later half of its run in the theaters is going to be clogged up by people who are taking their kids to see a movie and they have to choose between Despicable Me or Inside Out 2. And as much as I love Inside Out 2 and I prefer Pixar to almost any other animated studio, there's going to be a lot of people out there who will choose Despicable Me 4 over Inside Out 2. So I think it still has a really good chance of hitting it. I just think that those two movies that will be overlapping kind of lowers the odds for both of them a little bit. I'm going to give this one a 71% chance of hitting it in the box office. Okay, but now to talk about some of the animated movies that I don't think have as good of a chance. I think that these are either, for whatever reason, they're coming from like lesser known franchises or they're coming from different film studios or they are more original IP, which I feel like that's something I need to get into later. A lot of original movies do not do well in the box office, and I do think that that is really depressing. The Fall Guy movie is currently out in theaters, and it opened up to the box office being significantly worse than what was projected for it. A lot of people are thinking it might have a bounce back this week, but so far, The Fall Guy is looking like it's probably going to be a flop, which is a shame because I think that their marketing has been absolutely incredible, and I think that overall that movie was a really solid movie. So to talk about the first one that's an original one that's going to be coming out this year, we have the movie The Wild Robot. I think that this movie looks great. I think that the original trailer that they've showed for it was fantastic. I got to see it in theaters, and it's one of those movies that definitely feels like it needs to be seen in a theater. And I think it's going to be similar to like the first 45 minutes of the movie WALL-E, where it kind of feels like it's going to be a silent film and it's going to be very emotional, and it's kind of going to feel like that mixed with The Iron Giant. Looks like it's gonna have a lot of heart, a lot of emotions, and I'm very excited for that movie. But realistically, I don't think it's going to hit $1 billion. But because anything's possible, I'm gonna give it a 2% chance of maybe hitting $1 billion. The next one, we're gonna be getting back into some of the franchise stuff. The movie Transformers 1, it got its first trailer. It looks like it's going to be a really funny movie. I'm sure it's going to be entertaining. I don't see this one hitting $1 billion. Last year, we had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem come out, and that was a really, really good movie with a franchise that I feel like is similar in size when it comes to the fan base. And that one didn't even make it to 200 million. And on top of that, the Transformers movie that came out last year barely made it to around 500 million. So I'm expecting this to land somewhere in between those. Definitely not going to hit $1 billion. But once again, anything's possible. I'm going to give it a 1% chance. And now, talking about an animated movie that might potentially hit $1 billion that I honestly have no idea. It's way too early to tell. This movie's going to be coming out in December, which, surprise, right now, there's not a lot of movies coming out in December. But the movie that I'm talking about is the Lord of the Rings War for the Rohirrim. I definitely butchered that pronunciation. But this is an anime-style Lord of the Rings movie. And for people who do not know, the Lord of the Rings franchise, if all of those movies, like their box office, were to be translated, like to account for inflation and whatnot, in today's day and age, they would have all hit $1 billion, which is crazy to think about. They had one movie that actually hit $1 billion at the time. So the possibility of the Lord of the Rings having a movie in its franchise that hits $1 billion is definitely there. But that being said, the Hobbit movies that came out after the original Lord of the Rings trilogy never quite made it to $1 billion, didn't do as well in the box office. And I do think that this movie has a similar chance of that happening. Some of the people who are really big Lord of the Rings fans are definitely going to go out and see it, but there's also going to be a decent size of people who are like, why are they making the Lord of the Rings into a kid's movie? Because it's animated, and for some reason people don't respect animation. I think this movie is going to be great. Like I said, we don't know a lot about it yet. I barely know how to pronounce the name, but I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic movie. And then the last movie I want to talk about is Moana 2. Moana 2 is interesting because right off the bat, I'm kind of inclined to say, well, it's a sequel to a Disney movie, and the original didn't even really get close to hitting $1 billion. So you wouldn't think that it would hit $1 billion. But that being said, Lin-Manuel Miranda... Oh, wait, no. Lin-Manuel Miranda is not coming back for the music. It's going to be different people. If this soundtrack is somehow as good as the original Moana soundtrack, if it is as good as maybe perhaps the Frozen soundtrack when it first came out, and you're like, you couldn't like avoid hearing those songs. Those songs would play like in stores. They would play literally everywhere. And it's coming out during the season of the holidays. And it's one of the only kids movies that's coming out around November. So Moana 2 could sneakily hit $1 billion if it just happens to be that big of a hit. If it surprises people, if it ends up being really good, a lot of people will see this as kind of like a return to form for Disney, and they'll be like, hell yeah, Disney is so back. Let's go see this movie in theaters. And because there is a chance of that happening, I'm going to give it a 7% chance. I don't think it's going to hit $1 billion, but that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if it makes a lot more money than people are currently expecting it to. The next category that I'm going to be talking about is one that I'm a little bit more comfortable talking about. We're going to be talking about some superhero movies. There are only 4 superhero movies coming out this entire year, and I think that the little breather that we've gotten for the last, I think it's been 6 months without a superhero movie in theaters, is very, very nice, and it does feel very refreshing. But I think that a lot of people are going to be excited to potentially see superheroes on the big screen again. And we're starting off with Deadpool and Wolverine, 2 characters who people have been wanting to see on the screen together for really, really long time. It's been at least like 10 years for a lot of these people. We saw them in X-Men and Wolverine, and we were like, please do this better. Please get it right. Please do it again. Do it again, please. And it's happening. It's going to be rated R, which I do think hurts its odds a little bit. But I think that this movie is going to be a huge event film for the MCU. For one, it's going to be one of the first, officially a Disney movie that is going to be rated R. A lot of people are very looking forward to it. I personally am really looking forward to it. I will be shocked if this movie does not hit $1 billion, if I'm being totally honest. Like I said, I think it's going to be an event film. It's going to be similar to Spider-Man No Way Home, Avengers Endgame, all of those movies. And I think the only thing that is even slightly turning its odds against it is the fact that it's rated R. But that being said, rated R movies have hit $1 billion before. It was a superhero movie in the past. I think it has a chance. I'm going to go ahead and say I think it has a 92% chance of hitting $1 billion in the box office. Those odds might be a little high, but that being said, I plan on seeing it in theaters at least 3 times. And I'm sure there are other people who, after seeing it the first time, if it's as good as everybody thinks it's going to be, will probably see it a couple of times, because there's a chance that this movie is going to absolutely break the internet with some crazy cameos and some scenes that people won't even believe are actually happening on the big screen. But yeah, that's what I think about that one. Talking about another rated R superhero movie. Oh my god, hold up. Man, I am so late to noticing this. There are 3 rated R superhero movies coming out this year from 3 different studios. Why haven't we talked about that? Is that a big deal? I feel like that's a really big deal. We've only had like 2 or 3. Oh, wait, hold up. We've had like 4 rated R superhero movies ever, I believe, because we've only had The Joker, Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, Logan. Those are the only rated R superhero movies we've ever gotten before, right? Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I wrong? Oh, Blade. The Blade movies are rated R. Okay, never mind. But still, we're getting 3 rated R superhero movies in 1 year, and they're coming from 3 different studios. Sorry, this is just blowing my mind right now. I don't know why that's just now hitting me. But anyways, to talk about The Joker, Folie à Deux, I think that this movie has a decent chance of hitting $1 billion. Like I said earlier, the first Joker movie has hit $1 billion, and a lot of people really like that movie, and I think that this movie has something going for it that a lot of Marvel movies does not have, and it's the Oscars. A lot of Marvel movies never even really get Oscars. Some of them barely even get nominated for Oscars, and I do think that a lot of people will go and see Deadpool Wolverine, will go to see it because it's going to be a good time, and they're going to be like, yeah, this is so fun, oh my god. And they're not going to be like, oh my god, that is the greatest acting performance I've ever seen in my life, get this person an Oscar right now. Whereas with this movie, we have Lady Gaga showing up as Harley Quinn. We have Joaquin Phoenix reprising his Oscar-winning role as the Joker. We have a soundtrack which I'm sure is going to be absolutely incredible. It's going to be a musical. The cinematography is probably going to be once again on point because Todd Phillips absolutely killed it in the original movie. I think that this movie has insane potential. Now that being said, there is kind of a divide online because a lot of people are starting to be like, well, you know, the first Joker movie isn't actually that good. It's actually really derivative of this movie and that movie and this movie. And the first Joker movie is actually really overhyped. And there's a lot of people right now who are kind of like turning on the original Joker movie. So I personally think it's going to be a solid movie. But because of some of the like backlash and stuff that's getting on the internet right now, I'm going to put its odds a little bit lower than Deadpool and Wolverine's at about 63. I don't think that they're both going to hit $1 billion. I think if one or the other is going to, it's going to be Deadpool. But yeah, now to talk about the 2 other superhero movies. I honestly don't even want to give these 2 that much time because we have a lot of movies to talk about. But Venom 3 is a sequel to some of the previous Venom movies that have done well in the box office. And overall, this character is actually really well perceived in the media all across the world. Like, there's a lot of people who love the Venom character as its own. He is kind of his own standalone figure. And he's a character who is very iconic. So I definitely wouldn't put it against Venom. Like, I wouldn't say that there's a chance that it doesn't hit it. But that being said, anything is possible. And the title for this movie is Venom 3: The Last Dance, and there are some crazy rumors out there, which I don't at all believe, but there's a lot of people who are saying that this movie is somehow going to be a multiversal movie, and it's going to be like the Spider-Verse movie for Venom, and we're going to see a lot of different Venom iterations. We're going to see Topher Grace return. We might potentially see Bully Maguire in it, and there might be a really weird dance-off sequence in this movie. I don't think that's going to happen, but that being said, it's still really early out in the movie. We still don't know anything about it. So I'm going to say it has like a 4 or 5% chance of potentially hitting $1 billion because the first one made $800 million. And I think it's a popular enough franchise, and it is being sold as it's going to be the last of the trilogy. And some people might be interested in seeing what that is. And then the last one to talk about, Kraven the Hunter. Very popular character, very popular IP. Everybody knows who Kraven the Hunter is. Everybody loves Kraven the Hunter. Who wouldn't want to see a Kraven the Hunter movie? The answer is a lot of casual viewers. But that being said, It's gonna be rated R. It has Aaron Taylor Johnson. Last year, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom did relatively well at the box office because of just solely the fact that Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson are very, very popular actors. And I think that Aaron Taylor Johnson, if he doesn't have that actor pull, I think he deserves that actor pull. He's a really impressive actor. He's really talented. So this movie could do it. I very much doubt it. I'm going to give it 1% because anything is possible. Alrighty, we're down to one of our last categories. We got franchise films. I wasn't entirely sure what to call all of these because if I'm being totally honest, a lot of these have like very different genres. So we're going to be talking about a lot of the movies that are coming out this month because this month is stacked for movies for some reason. But the first one we're going to talk about is the Kingdom of the Rise of the Planet of the whatever the Apes movie is called. I think it's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This movie looks like it's going to be really good. The trailers look like it's going to be fantastic. Some early reviews are saying that it's really good. And the last trilogy actually made a really good amount of money in the box office. Like I don't think a lot of people know how like successful those were in the box office, but they've done relatively well for themselves. I think that this movie would have a really good shot at hitting $1 billion if it wasn't for the fact that it is coming out during one of the most stacked months for movies this entire year. May has a lot of really, really good movies coming out in it. And if there are a lot of people who only can really afford to go see one movie during the month, I don't know if this is the movie that people would pick for the month of May. So I'm going to give it a 21% chance. I think that there's a chance that it hits $1 billion, but because of just the release date and how unfortunate it is, I'm not sure it's going to hit that. Talking about the next one coming out in May, we got Mad Max Furiosa. Mad Max Fury Road did relatively well in the box office. Once again, these are movies that have been around since like the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, somewhere in that range. And they have a lot of popularity. There's people of all ages who will be like, oh my God, I remember seeing these movies in theaters back when I was younger. I want to go see it in theaters again. So that people are definitely going to show up for these movies. I think that, what's it called? I think that Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth have a much bigger like celebrity pull than the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes will have. So if one of those two is going to potentially do slightly better at the box office, I do think it's going to be Mad Max Furiosa. So I'm going to give that one a 24% chance of potentially hitting $1 billion in the box office. Alrighty, but now kind of switching gears to the musical side of some franchise films. We have the movie Wicked Part 1. I know a lot of people online, a lot of the cinephiles, a lot of the people who make movie content really think that this movie is going to be the one that's going to hit $1 billion. Everybody who's saying if only one movie is going to hit $1 billion this year, it's going to be Wicked Part 1. And I don't agree with that. I'm a huge fan of The Wizard of Oz. As somebody who grew up as a theater kid, I've been in The Wizard of Oz musical. It's a really great show. It's a tale as old as time. That's Beauty and the Beast. But it's a really, really good franchise, right? And the Wicked musical is incredibly, incredibly popular. A lot of people love the soundtrack. A lot of people have seen the movie have seen the performance on Broadway. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who are going to go see this movie. But that being said, $1 billion is $1 billion. That's a lot of money. And I feel like there's not that big of a pull for people who want to see this musical in theaters. So as much as I really like this movie and I think that it's going to be a really, really good time in the theaters and I think it's going to be great, I don't think it's going to hit $1 billion as much as a lot of other people do. I think it's going to be probably a little bit closer to Oz the Great and Powerful. When that one came out, it hit about 500 million. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes somewhere from 500 million to 800 million. But that being said, I do think that there is a chance. And in that off chance, I'm going to give it a 17% chance of it hitting $1 billion because it could happen. But now the next one, I said we're switching gears to musicals. I mostly meant ones that have Broadway musicals. We're talking about Beetlejuice. This movie, I think, has a much better chance of hitting $1 billion than a lot of people are giving it credit for. Like, I know a lot of people are like, this movie's definitely not hitting $1 billion. There's no way this movie would be one that would hit $1 billion. But that being said, nostalgia bait for one, absolutely huge. We're getting Michael Keaton back as Beetlejuice. The juice is loose. It's going to be pretty. It's gonna be a pretty good movie. And then on top of that, we also have the star power of Jenna Ortega, who is a young up and coming star. I think a lot of people are gonna go see this movie just because she's in it. And on top of that, I think that this movie is one of the best movies where it comes to its release window. It's coming out at the beginning of September. and it is going to be running through Halloween. It's going to go past Halloween, and it's still going to be in theaters. And I think that that is huge because, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Kung Fu Panda 4 is currently at about $580 million in the box office. And part of it is because of just that longevity of being in the box office for so long that some people are going to the theaters not really sure what to watch. And they're like, oh my God, Kung Fu Panda is still in theaters? Yeah, let's go watch that and stuff like that. And I think that this movie is going to have a very, very like late push to kind of help it get over the hump. Like if it's stuck at like 600 million or something like that, I can see it getting an extra 100 million or something like that in the last couple of weekends because it's going to be Halloween and people are going to be like, oh my God, I could go watch Beetlejuice in theaters. Let's go watch the Beetlejuice movie in theaters. So I think that this movie, if it has a good enough opening weekend, will hit it because I think that it's going to be a little bit different than most movies where if its opening weekend isn't that good, it's not going to be that good. I think it's going to have a decent word of mouth if it is a solid movie, and people are going to want to go see it Halloween weekend. So this one has a chance. Once again, I'm going to give it around a 14% chance because I don't think it's going to be that good. But that being said, it picked a really good time to come out. It'd be great. But that being said, that was all of our franchise stuff. That was all of our animated movies, all of our superhero movies. What other movies do we have left? I'm going to go ahead and quickly address one of the elephants in the room. This is a great, great year for horror movies. We've had a lot of horror movies come out. Some of them have been decent. Some of them have been slightly better. And it seems like we're about to have a great summer full of horror movies that are going to be good. But that being said, the highest grossing horror movie of all time is the movie It. And it didn't even make it over $100 million. I don't think any of the horror movies coming out this year are going to magically hit $1 billion and be the highest grossing horror movie of all time. So that's why I haven't addressed any horror movies coming out this year. But that being said, they're also usually much lower budget films, so they don't need to make that much to make their money back. Like, they're still going to be box office successes. They're just not going to be $1 billion winners. They're not going to be Billy winners. That sounded better in my head. Anyways, we're going to get to the last two movies that I want to talk about. Like I mentioned earlier, Fall Guy, not doing so hot in the box office. And I know I was about to call this original IP. I know it's based off of an old TV show, but let's be honest, a lot of the people who are seeing this movie or have seen the trailers and stuff for this movie are like, oh my God, this is an original movie. This is something that's going to be, you know, its own thing. And a lot of people are kind of liking the fact that it's like standalone. But it's, for the most part, is kind of like its own IP. It's not stealing from, you know, some franchise that's been popular for 40 plus years. It was a TV show that ran for about 3 years back in the 70s or 80s, I believe. So that being said, it's not doing well in the box office right now. And that is really, really depressing. And these last two movies I wanted to talk about are movies that I feel like should do relatively well in the box office, but might not because they are simply original stories. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the movie If. This one suffers from a lot of things. For one, is going to be coming out in May, which I've already talked about, is one of the most stacked months for movies the entire year. May is just absolutely filled with a bunch of movies that are going to be good. We have the Strangers movie that looks great. We have I Saw the TV Glow, which looks great. Those are both horror movies. The, what's it called? Mad Max Fury Road, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I feel like there's another really big one that's coming out at the end of the month. I'm blanking on it right now, but just imagine I said another one that's really great and is going to be coming out at the end of the month. But overall, we have a lot of really big movies coming out in the month of May, and I feel like this movie is just going to get swallowed up. It's the movie If, directed by John Krasinski. It's going to be starring Ryan Reynolds. A very fun star-studded cast. It looks like it's essentially going to be kind of like the movie Hotel for Dogs. Was that a good poll? Do people know that movie? I don't know if people know that movie. But it's about imaginary friends and them finding, you know, a new home, potentially finding new kids to be imaginary friends with. And it looks like it's basically going to be like a Pixar movie brought to life. And it looks like it's going to be a really good movie. But I'm worried because it's original IP. It's not going to get the attention it deserves. I'm going to give it a 1% chance of it hitting $1 billion because anything is possible. But I'm depressed because it probably won't. And then the last one I want to talk about, I personally don't really care that much about this movie, but I wanted to talk about multiple original movies, so I don't just sound like I'm obsessed with the movie If and I'm obsessed with Ryan Reynolds and John Krasinski because I love them to death and they're amazing. But that being said, the other one that I wanted to talk about was the movie Bike Riders. This one's starring Austin Butler, starring Tom Hardy. I think that this movie is definitely going to be an Oscar-style movie. Like, it's going to be one of those ones where, like, the acting performances are both Oscar-nominated worthy and stuff like that. And there's going to be a lot of really intense and dramatic scenes, and I think that from just the trailers alone, you can tell this is going to be a very intense and like mature movie. It is rated R. And I just wanted to talk about it because, once again, it's original IP, and I think that it's probably not going to do that well in the box office because it's original IP. But yeah, that being said, that was all of the movies that I wanted to talk about. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking out this video. I know it was really long, and I'm sorry for that, but I appreciate you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow.
Back at it again, but that's a relevant flow. So smooth, they calling me Mr. Elegant. Like an elephant, I got a long nose. Like a president, I've got a few hoes. Swift with a stutter, I'm smooth like butter. Don't see it coming when I slip undercover. Like a big dog, but I don't bite. I'm still a big broad, I'd win that fight. Come match you and I knock out your lights.